Hi, I'm Fotis. I'm 23 years old. I'm half Greek, half Danish, and live in Greece. And I'm working with acrylics and silicone as my preferred mediums of choice right now.
Are there any specific themes that manifest in your work?
Yeah, I'm working with the themes of what is real and what is fake. The common theme is perception versus representation. For example, this pipe is not a functioning pipe, so could it be considered a pipe, or is it a work of art to begin with? And that's what I'm doing with painting as well now. I'm working on adding like layers of paint onto a canvas. So if you add one layer of paint, it adds a thickness to it. So how many layers of paint could you add until it becomes like something more than a painting? So for example, like, does it become a sculpture in the end? That's what I'm working on with right now.
Interesting. How do you see yourself in relation to artists which were working before you? Because as you work with illusion, do you think you're an artist yourself, or at least are you inspired by them?
I think I'm mostly borrowing from them, like their techniques and whatnot. I don't consider myself like fully an artist because now I'm working with like doing more conceptual work and more sculptural work as well. So I'm moving like away from directly illusion based and more towards like conceptual and how do you like perceive the work in itself. So it's mostly about like how does the viewer think of it. Like I like to challenge the viewer into like questioning if this is art or if this is a painting or if it's a sculpture or what is it. I like doing that.
Interesting. Did your practice change since the start of university, or?
Yeah, of course. It changed massively. Before I was just doing drawing and illustrations. That's the whole reason I came to university, to like challenge myself and do more work. So in the beginning, I hadn't even painted before I started university, and it also changed throughout university. I started with painting, and then like painting more realistic stuff, and now it has become like a totally minimalistic, abstract, which I wasn't expecting at all. So yeah.
You seem to be working with just black and white. Is that also part of abstracting your work?
Yeah, maybe a bit. I think it mostly came from working with optical illusions, because in op art they use a lot of black and white stripes. So just liked the minimalistic style of it, just borrowed that. And it's also just easier to work with, because I have the paint already, I might as well use it.
Does philosophy play a role in your practice?
Yeah, a huge part actually. A book got recommended to me called Art and Illusion by Gombrich, and that has played a massive role in how I'm thinking about what I'm making. For example, this nice pipe that I made, the idea actually came from the book. So in the book, there's this passage that compares a carpenter and a painter. So it goes like this. Both a carpenter and a painter are instructed to make an object, let's say a piece of furniture. And in the passage, the author argues that the carpenter is closer to the object itself, like the truthfulness of the object, with his representation than the painter. Because the painter can only represent the carpenter's idea of what that object is. So the painter is twice as removed from reality. What is he really? Because the carpenter isn't like, he's also just representing that object. That's what I like about it.
What is the relationship between 2D and 3D in your practice? Because you seem to be working in between of these two dimensions. What is your thought about it?
I like thinking about it as like a whole, let's say, universe within itself. So I don't like making distinctions between sculpture and painting because I think like they're kind of related. A painting itself, like the canvas you're making on, is like a 3D object. So you're like flattening a 3D object when you're painting on the 3D canvas. So I like using those two things interchangeably. That was the idea with this piece. I was playing with the idea of making a sculpture look like a painting. So that's why I used the op art like style so I could flatten it. That's also how it relates back to like questioning what is real and what is not. Somehow.
So I guess you're turning a three-dimensional work into a second dimension.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Okay. How do you see your work interacting with the space, or how would you want your work to interact with the space?
Well, from my point of view, it's more about like how the viewer interacts with the work. That's how I place it in the space. So my, like in some works like that one behind me, I'm taking into consideration the viewer's point of view. Like, cause the only way it's gonna work, the only way it flattens the image is like from a certain angle. So you have to place it in a way the viewer can see it. That's how I install my work. That's how I want the viewer to interact with the space. It's highly dependent on the viewer's perception and the work I'm making.
Do you think the gallery setting is the ideal setting to see your work?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about it actually. I haven't tried placing it, for example, in the forest or something like that, like outside of the gallery. So that could be another like thing to try out actually.
You are also a tattoo artist, and you have a tattoo practice outside of your fine art practice.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that before you did illustrations before coming to university, and I guess that was also like influenced by tattoo work. And
Yeah.
is there a relationship between these two practices for you personally, or they are mutually exclusive?
I think they're quite separate, but like the whole reason why I got into art was because I started tattooing and I wanted to like become better as an artist. So that's why I started university. And yeah, I think I've actually thought about making work and tattooing it, like tattooing like a canvas that's totally made out of clear silicone. But I still don't know how to make that work or like what to tattoo on it. But yeah, I've thought about it, but they're kind of separate.
Is there anything else you wanna add
To what?
to the viewer?
To the viewer. Always question reality.
Okay.
You never know what is real and what is fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.